Sally Farrell, and I'm with eXp Realty here in Bellingham, Washington. And I wanted to introduce you all to Bryan Rust. He is with the Community Boating Center in Fairhaven. So, Bryan, can you tell everybody where is the boating center?
The Community Boating Center is down right in the heart of Fairhaven's waterfront. So if you go down the hill from kind of the main area of shops and restaurants, you find yourself headed down towards the Bellingham Cruise Terminal and Marine Park. And if you take a right just next to Pause for a Beer, we're kind of out across the train tracks. And you can't miss us once you're out down there. We're a bunch of bright kind of Caribbean blue turquoise buildings.
You are pretty easy to find once you head that direction. You're easy to spot, which is probably great for the boats out on the water to find their way home too, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into it. So my first question for you is describe your mission, the Community Boating Center's mission.
So the mission as it reads is to foster small watercraft education, access, safe recreation, and marine stewardship on Bellingham Bay. And really, I think I would distill that down to we're trying to impact people's lives through the lessons of the sea. There's a lot of opportunities for engagement, of connections to each other, a sense of place and understanding of science and the issues that our environment faces, all kind of wrapped into a package of recreation. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
I mean, that all really makes sense. If you're into boating, you should be aware of your environment and what's around you and your impact. So that's fantastic. So my second question is, there is a lighted boat parade that's been a tradition in Bellingham for a long time, and you guys are participating in that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the lighted boat parade is something that I think I've seen in a lot of communities around the region, and it's a celebration of the winter holidays, and folks decorate their boats and kind of cruise the waterfront. And this is something that historically has been hosted by the Bellingham Yacht Club, still is hosted by the Bellingham Yacht Club. And we thought we would get involved and light up some of our human paddle craft. So we go out in rowboats and kayaks, and we don't necessarily go out as far from shore as they like to, but we kind of hang out in Harris Bay and over kind of by Taylor Street Dock. It's something that we got involved with last year. And wintertime conditions are pretty challenging, so it's not something that I think we'll be able to do every year. It's pretty fun when we get a nice calm night for it.
So, well, it sounds beautiful. So where can people go to watch the parade?
Well, I think one of the best spots for it would be Taylor Street Dock. There's a little shelter kind of down at the end of the dock there in front of the Hotel Chrysalis. The Bellingham Cruise Terminal is one end of the parade, and they're going to just go down kind of Boulevard Park and back, I think. So anywhere that you can see out onto Harris Bay and the Fairhaven waterfront, you should be able to get a good view.
Okay, so you guys are closed down for the season, the Community Boating Center. You closed down when?
Yeah, we close at the end of October. So our season runs from mid-April through the end of October. We have a few programs that kind of go further into the shoulder seasons than that. We have a middle school sailing team that starts a little bit earlier in the spring with their practices and regattas and events. And then that team actually just competed last weekend down in Seattle. So that program runs a little further into the season, but for the most part, our public offerings are mid-April through the end of October, through Halloween. Yeah, Bellingham also has a high school sailing team that's hosted over in Squalicum Harbor, and they compete all throughout the region. There's about 35-40 kids on that team, and we have 25 kids on the middle school team. And this is a relatively new program. We started the middle school team, I think, 2 years ago, and it's been really successful, I suppose, in the kind of context of COVID. Kids are hungry to spend time outside and connecting with each other.
I just have one more question for you. It sounds like you guys do a lot of different events, programs, cater to the different needs of the community. What is your most memorable experience you've had at the boating center?
It's a good question. Well, I always tell people the boating center is kind of a complex mix of of different things going on. So we teach skill classes to adults and kids. We take people out on tours. We do a nighttime tour in the summer where we go and see the bioluminescence, which is just a phenomenal experience if you've never done that. And we rent boats, and we also leverage all the revenue that we generate from those avenues into community enrichment programs. So kind of on the water recreational therapy for folks with disabilities, for veterans, for folks experiencing homelessness. So we really want to ensure that access to these experiences and what it is to be out on the water is open to everybody in our community. And I think that, you know, another element of that is we're kind of a connection space. So people from all sorts of walks of life can gather around in a community center, happens to be waterfront and beautiful, and they can talk to each other and understand each other. So I think overall, the work that we're trying to achieve is connecting people not only to the water, but to each other. And I suppose my favorite memory within that is there's one family that comes to memory. It was early on in the pandemic. And I remember it was a group of teenagers and their mother, and the kids took a rowboat out, and while they were on the water, she was sitting on the bench at the boating center crying, and I went up to her to just say, do you need anything? Can I help you with anything? And she said that the kids, she was crying because the kids had been smiling and laughing for the first time in a number of weeks. And I believe it was Father's Day that they were there, and they had just lost their father on Mother's Day. And so I guess this moment of, you know, I think the water can take us away from some of our chaos that we live day to day, and that these kids had an opportunity to kind of escape their challenges for a moment and have an afternoon where they could just kind of be back to themselves. And I think connecting with that woman about that moment in their lives and to understand the impact of that time, it was, you know, it's those types of moments that are my favorite. And I said, you guys can come back as much as you want. It's all on the house. And
Oh,
I'm
man.
just glad that we can provide those types of spaces for people, especially in moments of challenge, which certainly we know has been kind of the theme of the last couple of years.
You know, I did not expect that to be your answer to be anything near that, but it's so fitting. You know, like I said, I grew up in Bellingham. I grew up looking at the bay as a kid and had opportunities, you know, when I was younger to get out on the water. And it always just seemed magical. That's the only word I could describe it. It was just, like you're saying, getting away from the shore and seeing a different perspective and challenging yourself and all that stuff. It's wonderful. I think we're going to have to talk again, Bryan.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to talk again in the spring when you guys start, you know, with the gearing up again. But in the meantime, I want everybody to check out, put the website here, check out your website and find out more about the lighted boat parade, which is part of, you know, one of all of the wonderful events that are happening during the holiday season. And Bryan was kind enough to meet with us today from his Thanksgiving weekend getaway. So we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Let's
Yeah.
talk again.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sally.
Okay, thanks.